Prospect and acquire new accounts to benefit local businesses with our on-air, online, and digital products. It's 2022, and the Miller Media Group has expanded into working for local businesses through our new digital division. Prospective candidates should have a degree in advertising, marketing, or public relations. A $2,000 sign-on bonus is offered for each of the two positions. Send your resume and references to WHOW at randyradio.com. That's WHOW at randyradio.com. The Miller Media Group's an equal opportunity employer.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence, and the WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the phone this morning is Joey Long, director of the DeWitt County Museum and C.H. Moore Homestead. And a good morning, Joey. How are you today?
I'm great this morning, and I hope the same is true with you and everyone who is out there listening.
Absolutely. Staying a little cooler here this morning, Joey, in Illinois. But you were telling me before we got started that despite the heat of the last week, the groups have been coming out and taking part in all the things the museum has to offer right now. What have you seen in the last week, and how is attendance at the museum these days?
Well, it certainly seems to be true this year, as in most years past, that this time of year is when people finally start hitting the road. They decided that, it's time to go and explore and, enjoy a little adventure. So that's bringing people to the museum. And then not only taking to the road steps, but with the aviation exhibit taking place, they're also taking to the skies. For example, earlier this week, we had a group of flying farmers come to view the Prairie Flyers exhibit, and they flew in from Wisconsin, Nebraska, Iowa, and they also came from all over Illinois. So some flew and some drove, but it was a great crowd. They really enjoyed the exhibit, and it was just a really nice time to be able to welcome them and meet such interesting people.
Sure thing. Yeah, that's great. It's good to hear that the exhibit, the Aviators exhibit, is bringing the folks in, because I really had thought that was going to be just a huge exhibit. Like, I really thought people were going to come out for it. Are you finding that to be the case? Are folks very interested in that? What's the interest level like for that so far?
Yeah, people have been quite interested in coming out for the exhibit, just to, view that and take all of that in. And it's drawing people locally, but also people from outside our area. So that's nice to see. There have been a lot of people coming from far distances also to view the exhibit, because the exhibit features some of their family members. We had some relatives of the Thorpe family who came down from, I believe it was Minnesota, possibly Michigan. We had the niece of one of the men featured in the aviation exhibit. His name was Lee Gilbaugh, and Lee's niece came up from Mississippi specifically to, see how we recognized and honored her uncle. And so that's really nice. And that I'm told is even expanded into some family reunion type situations. They planned it around, let's all meet in Clinton, the aviation exhibit's going on, recognizing, one of our family members. And so it's just been a great way to draw people in for them to, come and look at the exhibit, but then also, other good things are happening, right? So, family get-togethers and whatnot. So yeah, it's been a great thing. And then, we're also having local people come, and we've had people locally, come to view the exhibit. But, we have a lot more going on in addition to that. Every Saturday, we have the kids' balsa wood airplane contest. So the kids have been coming out for that on Saturdays. Also, we have every weekend some, type of special thing taking place. So this Saturday, the exhibit will open at 10 a.m. And then at 10:30, the Radio Society will be there with their radio-controlled aircraft. So people can come out and take a look at that. And then at 12:30, bring your kids. We have the balsa plane contest. And then at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll have some live music on the front lawn. So lots going on. So even if you've seen the exhibit, come on back out. You know, all of these activities are free, these special activities, and just enjoy the day with us.
For sure, good to hear. So a lot, and you mentioned those events that go on with the continuation of the exhibit. Joey should draw in people as well to it. Last time we talked with you about the exhibit, Joey, was of course at its grand unveiling the weekend of Memorial Day. How did the opening event go from your perspective? Tell us about that day a little bit.
Oh, it was amazing. So the plan was to launch the opening of the exhibit with a hot air balloon launch. Now, these things are very dependent on weather. So, you know, we had to keep our fingers crossed, not too much wind, no rain, you know, all of these things. And it ended up being the most amazing thing. I got to the museum grounds somewhere between 5 and 5:30 in the morning. And the group started with, you know, inflating the hot air balloons. We had not one, but two. But the weather was so odd that morning. We had a fog covering everything, which actually, you know, magnified the sun as the sun rose in the east. And we had a really good crowd. Some people, you know, came out and watched. Others, you know, we had a lot of people just, you know, like drive by to see what was happening. And the imagery, the photographs and the videos that were taken during that time period are just amazing because of that strange atmosphere going on at the time. And so that was really exciting. And then the rest of the day was quite busy as well. So it turned out to be what we had hoped. And we are really happy about that. I would mention again, we could not have done this without the help of the community. You know, we had so many people step forward to, you know, make donations, to officially sponsor the event. And then, you know, all of the people who shared their stories and their artifacts and mementos with us. And then all of the volunteers that, you know, have agreed to pitch in to serve as volunteer docents throughout the time period that we're having the exhibit. It's just been a wonderful thing.
You mentioned the docents, Joey. Do you still? I remember you were in here with Mr. Warner and Edith and Dennis. Do you still need docents for the remainder of the exhibit? I know there's only a few weeks still to check it out, but how about that that call for that need?
We can always use docents. So yes, we would be happy to, you know, we would be happy to have more help if anyone out there is listening and thinks that that's something that they would be interested in doing. We would love to hear from you. We have two shifts, a shift that goes from 10 a.m. to 1:30 and then 1:30 to 5. So it's only a half day. And, you know, if you come on out, you might meet some really interesting people. And I think you would enjoy the experience. So anyone who thinks that that might be something they'd be interested in doing for a few hours, again, we would love to hear from you. Just give us a call at the museum. That number is 217-935-6066.
Sure. So, what does it take to be a docent, Joey? Is there an extensive training process? Do you have to know everything about the exhibit? What do you ask of those volunteers?
Well, it's not as frightening as one might think. So basically, the docent is asked to, you know, greet people at the entrance when they come to the exhibit, the entrance of the carriage barn, and they will take the ticket that they have in hand or sell them a ticket. And then, you know, basically the job is to just greet people, smile, make people feel welcome. And then if people do have questions, we do have some literature that the docents, you know, are welcome to read that might help them answer the questions. If they don't have the answer, they can certainly call me out, you know, and I will try to help them in any way I can as far as answering. But mostly it's just to be there, to smile, to warmly greet people, to welcome them in, and just make it as good of an experience as they can.
Very good. Joey Long, director of the DeWitt County Museum and C.H. Moore Homestead, is our guest on the phone for this morning. So, one thing I've been curious about, Joey, as the exhibit has, been out there for folks to check out. You mentioned the flying farmers. They came in from all over the Midwest. Where else are folks coming in for this? Like, are you finding folks are traveling a good distance to check out this exhibit? Because I felt like there was a lot of excitement and build up to it. And I really had hoped that would translate into people coming from all over, Illinois, possibly the Midwest, if they were so inclined, given vacation season and all of that. What are you finding the draw to be?
Well, we're having people who are traveling and see the roadside banners, and that brings them in, people that, are from quite far distance and had no idea that, we even had this taking place. So they come out of curiosity. And then we've had people, Champaign, Bloomington, come down, specifically for the exhibit because they've seen the posters that we've had posted out, and, they've heard us talk to you. And so, yeah, all over central Illinois and beyond. And then also, I know Missouri, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, Indianapolis. That's just off the top of my head. And that's just the aviation exhibit. On the other side, we also have the house has been quite busy. I had a couple come in. They were from Pennsylvania. And the reason that they were in Clinton is they had seen the museum's ad in the newly released Abraham Lincoln National Heritage Area Looking for Lincoln Visitor's Guide. So they decided to drive all the way from Pennsylvania to come and check out our museum.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that it is going well, and things are, folks are coming out to check it out. Are groups coming out, not just for the aviation exhibit, Joey, but are they coming out to check out the museum and such? This was something we started the conversation with about groups coming in. What is attendance like for just the museum? How about that?
Well, I would say the groups that have been coming out are coming more for the aviation exhibit. And this time of year, normally we would have groups this time of year because traditionally, June has been the month for our annual quilt show. However, this year it's been moved forward to July. So a lot of what we're getting at the museum this time of year, not so much organized group tours, because again, people are out, traveling and adventuring. So maybe not so many group tours this time of year, but I do look for that to happen in July when we have the quilt show. We get a lot of ladies groups. So we get a lot of quilting groups, sewing groups, church groups, ladies history clubs, and that type of thing come for that quilt show each year.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joey, let's take a time out because you mentioned the quilt show. Let's dive into that on the other side of the break. Where do folks go to learn about all things DeWitt County Museum, the aviation exhibits, Apple and Pork Festival? Where do folks go to find information on all these things? Well,
all three of those things, you can go to our website, and that is www.chmorehomestead.com. And then for each of those things, the aviation exhibit, the Apple and Pork Festival, and the museum, all three of those have their own separate Facebook page. So you can find us on Facebook. That's probably the most up-to-date information. Or they can give us a call at the museum, and that's 217-935-6066.
Fabulous. Joey Long is the director of the DeWitt County Museum and C.H. Moore Homestead. My guest on the phone for this morning. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton.
WHOW.
This is John Carter, Chief of Police in Monticello. As a law enforcement officer, I've seen the impact that depression and suicide have on people. Many times, those contemplating suicide endure considerable suffering and distress. But there is help. If you feel depressed or lonely, there are many resources to help you. Call a trusted relative, friend, or minister, or call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline toll-free at 800-273-TALK. That's 800-273-TALK. All of us are here to help.
On May 24th, the families of 19 school children in Uvalde, Texas, lost their boys and girls to a lone gunman that went into their school and killed them and 2 teachers before police were able to stop him by ending his life. Based on an idea from a fellow broadcast group owner in Texas, the Miller Media Group has a way for you to express your condolences to the families, the school staff, and superintendent of the schools in Uvalde that have been affected by this tragedy. Simply send an email to this email address, texaskids@randyradio.com. That's texaskids@randyradio.com. All emails we receive will be printed, put in a binder, and sent to the Uvalde, Texas school superintendent so he, his teachers, and students know that we in Central Illinois are grieving with them. Please send your email by 5 p.m. June 30th so that we can get the emails printed, bound, and shipped to the Uvalde, Texas school superintendent and continue keeping these families in your prayers. This message from the Miller Media Group.
Hey, this is Todd Gleason from Illinois Extension here with a time change for our daily market report on WHOW. You can now catch our daily review of the commodity markets at 5:06 on all of WHOW's many platforms. You'll still hear all of our commodity analysts and weather professionals each afternoon, but at a brand new time. And you'll still hear the weekly wrap-up of the commodity markets right here on WHOW when Commodity Week airs Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. Remember the time change for the daily closing market report on WHOW at our new time, 5:06 p.m. weekdays.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the phone in this segment is Joey Long, director of the DeWitt County Museum and C.H. Moore Homestead. And Joey, you talked about the quilt show as we went to break there. Tell us about the quilt show this year. What's going on? When is it? Where is it? How do folks get involved? How about all those things?
Yes, so we're looking forward to another quilt show this year. And as I said, it won't be in June as we've done traditionally, but it will be in July. So the quilt show will run from July 1st to July 31st. And this year, the ladies will be pulling quilts from the museum collection. So rather than putting a call out for quilts and having people bring quilts in, loaning them for display, we will just be pulling from the museum's collection. So there will be a lot of great examples of, some very old quilts and some vintage quilts. And I'm really quite happy about this. We have an amazing collection of quilts at the museum, and sometimes they seldom see the light of day. We do rotate them, so that, people have the opportunity to see different quilts from time to time. But this will be the opportunity to come in and see a vast collection of quilts on display. And I'm just happy that they'll be pulled out of storage and so many will be able to be seen all at one time.
No doubt. And you mentioned, I know this is kind of a theme from our past discussions about the quilt show, but when you come out, it's not just, quilts lined up and that's the end of it. They're kind of scattered throughout the house and put in places where perhaps they would have been in the times of C.H. Moore, where a quilt may have been put in the home. How about that aspect of this, Joey?
Yeah, a lot of people who come to the quilt show and go to a lot of quilt shows, they'll comment on that, how unique it is, the way that we display these. So, of course, quilts on every one of the antique beds in the house, and we have quite a few of those. And then, draped over the settee, or other ways that you might see a quilt just kind of used, in everyday life. But then also, when you walk into the library, it just takes your breath away. We have quilts displayed in the library, hanging from all of those massive bookcases, sometimes quilts hanging from the railings of that upper gallery in the museum library. And then we drape them over those, 12-foot doors. And it just makes for a great showing. So you get to experience two things in that way. You get to experience, the historic house and the furnishings and the architecture and whatnot. But then you're also getting to, view all of these beautiful quilts. And I don't know. When I think of the quilt show, I kind of think of it as a combination between a let's say, a history experience, because you're in this historic house with all of these old furnishings and whatnot. But it's also like visiting an art gallery. The house itself has some amazing pieces of artwork, paintings and whatnot on display. But then we add to that these beautiful quilts, which, these quilts are, works of art. They really are works of art.
Very good. Well, Joey, in our final minutes together, just again highlight the quilt show, how folks, when they can check it out, where they can check it out, and all those things one more time.
Sure. So they can visit our website. That's www.chmorehomestead.org. They can visit the Facebook page for the Prairie Flyers exhibit, for the museum, which is under DeWitt County Museum, or for the Apple and Pork Festival, or they can give us a call at 217-935-6066. Now, before we jump off here, I would like to let people know there have been some issues with the heat since the aviation exhibit is in an unair-conditioned area.
Oh.
So if you're planning on coming, I would say please do either check our Facebook page for the Prairie Flyers exhibit, or give us a call first so that we can make sure that you don't make a trip and then find out that we're closed due to heat.
Very good. So, check that out. And again, that's I didn't even think about that issue, Joey. So I'm glad you mentioned it. And again, in our final minute together, Joey, what else is going on in your world at the museum? Anything you want to mention this morning?
Nothing but good things. So it feels like we're finally back in the swing after, being closed for a year because of COVID, and then kind of trying to navigate, things were still uncertain for so long, but now everything feels normal again. So here we are, bringing back some of the old favorites like the quilt show, and we're going to add new events to this. And from here, nowhere but upward.
Very good. Joey, again, how do folks follow along with all things DeWitt County Museum, CH Moore Homestead, the aviation exhibit, Apple and Pork? Where do they go? Who do they call?
For the most up-to-date information, I would say visit the Facebook pages, Prairie Flyers, A Century of Aviation in DeWitt County, Apple and Pork Festival, look for that official trademark logo, or DeWitt County Museum. They can also visit our website, chmorehomestead.org. They can give us a call at 217-935-6066, or stop by anytime. Say hello.
Joey, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. Joey Long, director of the DeWitt County Museum and CH Moore Homestead, my guest on the phone. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton.
WHOW.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason. Saying that it takes all threats seriously, the FBI has announced